Welcome to Center Stage. This week we are moving away from the usual top stories of the week, and we're looking at a whole new issue, perhaps a sociological issue that has socioeconomic implications. A new report from Yale University talks about black women, educated black women, still unmarried, right after this break. Center Stage. This new report, black women, educated black women still unmarried. Our discussion this week is rising above the wedding ring with a question mark, educated black women and singlehood. And we are very excited to have in our studio a woman who is no stranger to this country, of course, around the world, and to Detroit as well. Hollywood's own actress, accomplished Lynette McKee. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
You know, and I definitely thank you for accepting to be here.
I just wanted to come to listen to you talk.
Oh, okay. Let's begin then. You know, given where you are and where you've come from and what you are, I guess the question in light of this new report that came out of Yale University talking about how difficult it is now for educated black women to find a mate to marry, I guess the question for you that I have is the question of beauty, intelligence, and stardom, because you're not married. And can you just, for our viewers, tell us in your case how you view this report and, you know, from a personal experience?
Well, you know, I think a lot of things about the subject, but I think it's all subjective. If your ideal circumstance in life is that you are not complete without a mate of the other gender, you know, as your bookend, then I could see how this report could indicate a problem, if you will. I have been married and have always had a boyfriend up until very recently, the past few years, when I decided to focus my energies on my work, which was probably the smartest thing I could have done, because I am out of the child-rearing age, which I've read that scientifically speaking, that makes women in my age group a little less attractive to the opposite sex, because men, being somewhat predatory, are usually looking for women of the childbearing age to hook up with, because they're always thinking about, you know, making those babies. But I think it's subjective. If you need a man to be happy, then maybe you're going to have a problem if this report is accurate, which I'm sure it is. I prefer to look at things in a more philosophical way, in that what is meant for me, I will have if I stay true to my own path, if I hold my own course, which is for me right now to do my work. Now, I don't necessarily agree with one of the things that one of the other ladies, right, Kim, who I adore, was talking to her in the green room, and one of the things she said is that she does believe that men are attracted to, was it power?
Success.
Success. It's been my experience that success is oftentimes intimidating
because
for
you
a
have
traditional
success, you have stardom,
man.
you have fame, you have everything.
I wouldn't say I have everything.
Okay, but you have success and stardom.
But see, and that's all subjective as well. See, to some people, that's fantastic. To others of us, that's not really a big deal. It ain't a big yank. That's not what it's about, because those are fleeting attributes. Beauty is fleeting. Stardom is definitely fleeting. If you get 15 minutes out here, you're lucky. Some people live for that. I don't. And when you think of someone as in terms of being a star, you don't know what their personal circumstances are. You see somebody you've seen in film or on TV for years, you don't know if they're really financially all that stable,
right,
if they've been paid properly all those years for all that work, you know. So everything is subjective. Everything is subjective. For me, right now, I'm not necessarily looking for a man to complete me. Now, if one came up and knocked on my door and I was attracted to him and he asked me to marry him, I might not marry him, but I might hook up with him. Depends, though. Depends.
But then let me ask you this question, though. If men are not necessarily attracted to success, then what is it? I mean, give us experience out of Hollywood and, you know, where you're coming from.
Well, now when you think of me, I know it's easy to say Hollywood because a lot of my films were produced there and were released out of Hollywood, but I've basically been in New York for 35 years.
Right.
So my mentality is much more of a New York independent filmmaker, actor, stage actor, rough and tumble actor than Hollywood. When I think of Hollywood, I think of white girls with fake boobs and blonde hair driving Rolls Royces. To me, that's symbolic of Hollywood. New York is a little more real and, get on the subway and go to audition.
So what,
all right, ask me again.
What's been the experience coming out of New York then?
My experience coming out of New York is that in New York, folks are so busy trying to figure out how they're going to get the money for their next rent and their next meal. Ain't nobody thinking about hooking up in New York. If you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. I also happen to have a very strong support system in New York of women, career women, black women, who aren't, and they're not gay, but they ain't thinking about no man. They're working.
They're all consumed with their jobs.
They don't care if they're attractive or not to a man, or if their success is attractive, or if their success intimidates. We don't care. If an intelligent person who has something to offer emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, wants to be a part of my life, they are welcome. If they fall beneath a certain level of intelligence, emotional development, spirituality, kindness, humor, they're not getting in my circle anyway. And so people who are on that level, I don't know. I think it's a mindset. I've never felt that I needed a man to complete me, so I don't care what the damn report says.
That's right. And then I want to ask you this question then, and get what you think about this. There are lots of people who have said, or some people have suggested, well, since black men are not that available, then black women should have other options of going to other races. What do you take?
Well, I was married to a white man. Quite honestly.
Perfect example.
I reached a point in the relationship where I could go no further with him when I became more, I don't know if you want to call it militant, I suppose we could. When I came into my blackness and figured out who I really was and the responsibility I had as someone in the spotlight who people were looking up to and looking to set an example, I became increasingly uncomfortable with being, this sounds so racist. I know this sounds racist, and how can I talk this way when my mother is white? But this is the reality. The reality is I became increasingly uncomfortable with being seen out in public at premieres and stuff like that on the arm of a white man. Because I began to take on a very militant philosophy for myself personally, and I felt that it wasn't matching with the visual effect I was giving off by going with my, and this guy adored me, and he was great to me, and I did love him, and he loved me, but I could not go on any further with him. So, I know this, black men don't seem to have a problem going outside of black women to get their wives and make their hookups.
Well, I guess it depends on who, what black men you talk to, though.
That would be true. Now, that would be true. But the majority of them that I have experienced don't really have a problem dating white girls. Now, I've seen fewer black women with white men, but I don't know if that's the choice of the woman or if it's the choice of the man. It's the same with, you see a lot of young women with older men, but you don't see that many older women with young men, although I'm not opposed to that either. I think it's all subjective.
It's all subjective.
There's no hard and fast rule.
Okay. Well,
and love is blind.
It is.
Right, in theory, it should be.
Right. Thank you very much, Lynette McKee.
Thank you very much.
It's all subjective. When we come back, we'll bring in the round table. Stay tuned.